Hello, my name is John, and I'm here with Martin from Dutch loudspeaker company. He's working the camera. I'm talking about his speakers here. And this is the 8C. It's quite a beefy stand mount. It's large, it's heavy. How many kilos, Martin?
It's 26 kilos.
26 kilo loudspeaker. It's an active loudspeaker with a streaming input and an XLR AES EBU input. But this speaker doesn't just stream digitally and have its drivers powered by bespoke fit amplifiers. It does a lot more than that. The main thing being that it tackles the problem of room interactions. So ordinarily, a normal loudspeaker like this with a tweeter on the front and a bass driver on the front, as frequencies get lower, they radiate all around and they hit the sidewalls, the front wall, and then we hear reflections. So where Martin's sitting working the camera right now, if he was listening to these speakers, he would not only hear the initial fundamental sound coming out of the speaker, but he would be hearing the reflective sound. And that would be, I guess, suboptimal, really. So what Martin's done with this speaker is a few fairly big things to ensure that reflections from side and front walls are minimized. The first thing, and you can probably see it here, there's a wave-guided tweeter on the front. And that is in place to ensure that the dispersion pattern of this tweeter matches that of the mid-range driver. But the mid-range driver isn't like an ordinary mid-range driver. You can probably see the slot on the side here. And that is used to capture the backwards movement of the mid-range driver and fire out an anti-phase signal so that it cancels any sound, or cancels the same frequencies radiating out from here and coming around here. Essentially, what we get from the mid-range driver is a cardioid dispersion pattern. So it's kind of like this looping around. So very little goes to the back, very little goes to the side, so we get fewer reflections. So that's the mid-range sorted out, but as we know, bass reflections can be even more problematic. And so with this speaker, rather than trying to stay independent of the room, what Martin has done with the 8C, I'll just turn it around, you can see how heavy it is. What Martin has done with this 8C speaker is he's put two active subwoofer drivers on the back that work at 100 hertz and below. And ordinarily, you probably think that we'd have to put this speaker a long way from the front wall. Not the case. We can put this between 10 and about 50 centimeters, so anything up to half a meter away from the front wall. And what it does is, the way that this speaker's been tuned is that it couples to the front wall, so that the output of this driver and the wall become, the way I understand it, become a single acoustic system, so that radiation is a hemispherical dispersion pattern, right? Martin's nodding, so I think I've got that reasonably correct. But really, I mean, you can get into the technical nitty-gritty. You can always email Dutch if you want to know more about all of that. But really what we're looking at here is a loudspeaker that doesn't try and, while the mid-range tries to dodge reflections, the bass drivers try to engage the wall so that there are no out-of-phase reflections messing with your enjoyment of the music. This XLR socket here, this XLR socket here doubles as analog and digital input. That's fairly standard. What's not standard is an Ethernet input, which exists on each speaker. So you connect both speakers to your network at home. The other really interesting thing about this speaker is the Ethernet input allows us to use the Dutch app to apply parametric EQ filter settings and store them within the speaker. So yesterday we set these speakers up in my listening room behind us, and we measured the room, discovered the room modes for each speaker, and then applied filters using the app and have them stored inside each speaker so that we get a flatter frequency response within the room, within my listening room. So we're dealing with the speaker's behavior in the specific listening room. And you can do this in your listening room. You'll have a different result with different room modes. And you can apply, if you want to, optionally, correction, filter EQ correction, and store them in each speaker. And I think that's pretty amazing, actually. So this is called the Dutch 8C. The C stands for cardioid, and they sell for just under, a smidge under 10,000 euros a pair.